Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. Okay, it's review time, Duncan.
Oh.
It is review time. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from UK riff slingers, Ingested. The band's new album, Where Only Gods May Tread, will be released on August 14th via Unique Leader Records. So, album number 5 from Ingested. And this one comes with a couple of little surprises, Duncan. The first being that the bass duties... Well, do you know I like your surprises?
Oh, sorry. Dear. All right, hit me with them.
Okay, surprise number 1 is the bass duties were handled by Dominic Grimard. Now you're thinking to yourself, who is this Dominic Grimard? Why do I know that name? Well, he plays bass in Ion Dissonance.
Oh, right. That old chestnut.
A band you will be familiar with. The album also features 3 guest vocal appearances. We have appearances from Kirk Weinstein from Crowbar / Down.
Yep.
Who I have seen before, by the way, Down.
And we also interviewed.
We did also interview Kirk, from Crowbar.
We sat down and chatted to him. Just want to make sure. I don't know how great the memory is these days, Dave. I just feel the need to stress these things. Yeah, he's a fucking amazing dude.
It's not that sharp, but I'm glad you're here just to keep me right. Also features appearances from Vincent Bennett from the Acacia Strain and Matt Honeycutt from Kubla Khan. Album was mixed and mastered by longtime producer of Ingested and Cryptopsy guitarist Christian Donaldson. And the engineering on the album was handled by Nico Beninato and Sam Yates at Full Studios in Wales. The artwork was done by Dan Seagrave, who we've mentioned on numerous reviews. He's done stuff for Morbid Angel and Suffocation and Entombed and all that. Artwork done by Dan Seagrave. Pretty cool artwork as well, actually.
Yep, loved the artwork.
Yeah. So, Ingested, a band that have definitely been keeping themselves busy, Duncan. It was only last year that they put out their Call of the Void EP. And then they had a full-length album out the year before that. So they are not hanging about. Not at all.
I mean, if you've got it in, you get it out.
Well, this is true.
It's my excuse for chronic masturbation.
Here we go with the masturbating again.
I don't know. I'm really fucking horny tonight.
I can see that in your eyes. I can tell.
Horny for reviews.
Okay, well, I'm sure Ingested are about to get you going. They are, for people that don't know who the Ingested are, they're primarily, I'd say, a deathcore band. But if you're a fan of the band, you'll know they do kind of swim in the murky death metal waters from time to time. And you can hear that on most of their kind of previous releases, along with some kind of slam elements in there as well. This album still has that kind of smattering of styles. Like even from the first track, Follow the Deceiver, you can hear the kind of band like twist between the kind of slam and deathcore and death metal, and they do it so effortlessly. I must admit, from the get-go, like this album sounds very tight, sounds very focused, and unsurprisingly, punishingly heavy.
Just a bit.
The breakdown at the end of the first track will validate that statement.
Yeah.
Production is actually one of the best I've heard from Ingested. It's very crisp and probably the most polished I've heard Ingested sound. Like the attacking kind of blasts and even the older school style death metal riffs on tracks like Impending Dominus, they sound absolutely relentless. And then when those like big breakdowns kick in, you can't help but like make the disgusted face like when they kick in. It's just like, oh dear, oh Jesus Christ. But what I liked about the breakdowns was that they don't always wait to the end of a track to hit you with it, hit you with that kind of devastating blow. I like the formula of like scattering those kind of segments throughout the track, and it kind of catches you more off guard with that kind of devastating blow. what I was going to say, that there's a nice melodic break in that track as well, Impending Dominance. Had a kind of like ominous, kind of atmospheric, almost like Aegaeon. I don't know if you've heard of Aegaeon yet.
Yeah.
Almost had that kind of feel to it, which really added a kind of nice bit of contrast to the track. And it's something I feel that Ingested have definitely kind of amplified on this album. While this like album still has the king size riffs and the ruthless vocals, there is a kind of gloomy atmospheric vein running through a lot of the tracks on this album, which I quite liked. How did you feel at the start of this track? It hits you pretty much full on from the get go. Did you enjoy the kind of the start of the album?
Yeah, to be honest, this is the first Ingested album I've listened to, so it should surprise no one. And I'm actually uber surprised that they're British, because once again, if you had asked me to put money down, I would have said American. Yeah. Not just the production, like, because the production is amazing. There's the track name escapes me, but there's one that kicks off with like a bass pedal, but which is so like ridiculously fast. And like every single, I mean, I'm sure there is triggered, but the trigger didn't sound mechanical, which I thought was a good thing, because a lot of these bands will just go lazy and just do the old mechanical trigger. The old mechanical trigger. But they kind of lean back from going into that. There's a whilst it is very tightly produced, there's something, and here's a Duncan keyword dropping, wholly organic about the synth. You know, it all sounds very synchronous in a way which I really enjoyed. I think as well, like those sections, like the guitars are, I don't know what tuning the guitars are using, but at certain sections, you're talking about kind of classic death metal. It's kind of, it sounds tuned up, but then those breakdown bits hit in, and then I was completely floored by how detuned it sounded without necessarily thinking it was detuned. That makes sense. Yeah. Some of the sections are absolutely punishing, and the thing that really is the cherry on top of the sundae, Dave, is the vocals. Like the vocals hit like horrendously evil, guttural, kind of vile, deep tones out of fucking nowhere. The guy transitions so fucking easily between this really powerful mid-range sort of tone that he has to this horribly offensive kind of guttural stuff, which they once again they don't overuse on the album, which I really, really enjoy. The beauty of Ingested is that it is like, it's like a kind of supermarket sweep of heavy themes and tones. I'm just like they do feel like they're running up an aisle, just like grabbing a bit of this and grabbing a bit of that and just dropping it into their musical basket.
Bit of deal one.
Yeah, I think out of nowhere, just out of nowhere. But it does feel like that. It feels like they're really keen to keep things engaging and interesting, not only to them, but, and once again, this is another Duncan key phrase, but it's not to the detriment of the song. I feel that I listen to too much stuff now where I'm just like that. Oh, you've just done that for the sake of doing that. You know what I mean? There's no musical merit to changing the style to what you've changed it to just now, out with the fact that you want to prove that you can do it. And Ingested don't seem to do that at all. If anything, everything feels like it flows naturally into the next section. And I think the fact that they keep things as varied as they do is, you know, is to their testament. I will say this, some of the riffs on this album are just fucking like incredible. Like just really, really, really well written, really well paced and placed riffage here that I couldn't help but like feel like a little smile start to curve up on the side of my face when they hit in, because they really are just brilliant examples of very talented guitarists who are just melding a lot of different ideas and themes, and a band that are just clearly happy to go with that and build over the top of it. The Burdens of Our Failures, which comes about the middle part for me, one of the longer songs on the album as well, is where, like, to me things just like focus down and then just like really push towards the end, because the first half of the album is concise, sharp, punchy, aggressive, angry, you know, like all these things, and then they allow that track to breathe out a bit. And when I'm saying breathing out, there's no huge atmospheric sweeps here, ladies and gents, don't worry, but it feels like the album relaxes into itself and then like kind of refocuses back up and like does like a diving swan dive towards the end. It is a relentlessly heavy album, so much so that before we hit record, we had nicknamed and joked about the two albums specifically that we're going to be talking about on this one. And I believe where it came to talking about this one, I was like, yeah, this is the Davis Happy album, or the Disgustingly Heavy album, because that's what it is. And I can't imagine that you weren't like ridiculously happy listening to it. This is a box ticking exercise for everything that gives Dave Wood. It's like Viagra. I don't know why I'm going sexy again, but
I don't know.
It's just upsetting listeners now. I'm just doing it for my own sick perverse pleasure now. But yeah, like everything about, like, I was listening to certain sections going, well, this is once again one of those ones that had I stumbled on blindly to this one, this would have been a screen grab sent to Davey saying, you will fucking love this release.
Yeah, I've been listening to Ingested for a while. So it's not a new band in me, but I did really enjoy this album. Special guests on the album. This is where I thought this was a really good addition to this release.
Do they not usually do that then?
I don't think that. Well, there's 3 on this album. I certainly don't think there was as many of that on the last album. If there was any, I'll need to double check.
Kurt Weinstein's like genius move for this album, because the track that he is specifically on is the one where my attention, like the ears went up. I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? Doing a bit of delving online, found out that he was on it. But that to me, he's not the name that you would instantly gravitate to having a guest spot on an album that sounds like this.
No, not. Yeah, absolutely. The 2 tracks, or there's 3 tracks with the guests on them, but The Burden of Our Failures, as you mentioned, that one features Vincent from the Acacia Strain.
And he sounds great.
He does. And Another Breath features Kurt Weinstein. And for me, these tracks, they actually, for me, started to show the band kind of almost like starting to push out from their comfort zone. I loved the kind of bleak, kind of melodic tones on The Burden of Our Failures. The riffs still had a lot of weight to them, but they were kind of coated in a bit of darkness that gave the album a lift. Same goes for Another Breath. This track had a more kind of blackened streak to it, but with the addition of Kirk's melody, it almost gave it like a kind of Doom meets Deathcore kind of mashup. Which for me makes this track one of the kind of most original sounding moments on the album. It's a very solid, tight, well executed deathcore album, and moments like Another Breath definitely elevate it to that next level. There are parts of the album that feel like the band are ticking the kind of necessary boxes, and I'm sure like fans of Ingested will appreciate the kind of the sheer ferocity on offer here from the band. But for those that are looking for that, something different, a little bit more creativity, then like the tracks like The Burden of Our Failures and Another Breath will probably scratch that itch. There's a lot of like formulaic deathcore bands out there. There's like a whole sea of them out there.
Oh yes.
And recently we've started to see a few of them kind of like stretch their wings a bit and explore other ideas. And Ingested for me have certainly started to kind of tease that on this album, but I actually think they could take it a step further. I'd like to see them push that kind of idea forward onto like future releases. I mean this album it's heavier than Donald Trump's wallet, but and the production is probably the best I've ever had. But if I had any kind of, it's not really a criticism, but if I had anything to say, which I think you should maybe have a kind of think about on next albums, I would try pushing that creativity even further on the next one, because they've clearly got the potential to do it. They're very, very talented musicians across the board, as you'll hear on this record. But for me personally, like Oliver Twist, I want a wee bit more.
You see, the answer to that riddle, Dave, that you've set out there might be in the frequency of their releases. If you're releasing stuff every year, you're not giving yourself enough time to necessarily experiment and grow out additional influences, and that's maybe why there are so many guests on there. And I think you probably will find their next release probably has that, because you see them taking different turns and chances, and you get out, they start playing them live when we eventually get those things again, and you might see that make an impact. Having been like never listened to them before, I'm maybe less attuned to those kind of niggling grievances that you have on the release. I mean, there is a bit of paint by numbers here, but to me, having not listened to them before, those paint by number steps were executed really well. So it didn't feel like to me they were necessarily not moving out of a comfort zone, because I'm not aware of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was great. Great. I do agree with you. I think when they start, specifically the darker melody on the album, when they really start playing with that, you know, you do just kind of feel like there should be maybe more of this on the album. But it flies right through. It's a great, if albeit absolutely fucking punishingly relentless release.
Yes, absolutely. Rating wise, I'm probably sitting at a 4 on this one, a 4 out of 5.
I'm the same. There we go.
Yeah,
Back once
nice.
again. We are attuned. We have an accord, Dave.
We are in sync.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah,
Bye,
if you.
bye.
Oh God.
Oh dear.
There we go.
The fuck. We're not going to break. Go break, Dave.
If you fancy a bit of Ingested, then this one is out on the 14th of August. I'd highly recommend it. If you're looking for something that's going to punish your eardrums, then check this one out. It's called Where Only Gods May Tread, and it's out on Unique Leader Records on the 14th. If you want to check out the band, check them out on facebook.com/Ingested UK.
See if they release their own social platform called Ingested. I will sign up day one.
Yeah, so that is Ingested. Hope you dug the review, and check out that album.
Not the first man, just the next man. We've tasted so great, there's no more poking right away. Not the last man, just a wasteland.